Alright, just want to make a quick little market update video here. So I'm going to be looking at both the futures, so ES, I'll be looking at SPY, and I'll also be touching on gold briefly. But I just want to go over some key levels here, just to kind of get a standpoint for where we currently sit and kind of compare this back to what we saw back in May, as we initially started to see, the effects that the tariff implications were having. So as you can see here, it's kind of the same in the sense that we had this decline. So we had our initial decline here, we had our initial decline here. Now, as far as percentages go, and the pace at which we were selling off here, we sold off a lot quicker than we did back here in May. But now we're kind of starting to see the same thing in the sense that we sold down, we saw this bounce back up, and then we continued to sell back through this low that we set back here on ES right around the 2800 mark. So now if we look back at what we are seeing as of current, right at late July, early August, we saw a sharp sell-off. Now we've seen this rapid, increase back upward, but now we are starting to see a deterioration in the price here. ES is now moving back down, and it's sort of similar to what we saw back here in May. And while May was, rather slow in comparison to what we are seeing current, they correlate relatively similar in the sense that we saw this decline, came back up, and now we're starting to move back down. Again, this isn't, as far as prices go and percentages, it's not the same, but it could be a similar pattern in the way that traders are buying and selling ES or SPY, or how the S&P 500 is fluctuating. So just wanted to point that out. So as we move forward here on ES, I want to point out the 2880 level. So we bounced off of it today a couple times, and now looking at the hourly chart. And, we bounced on it a couple times. So a couple hours we bounced on it, and then we moved above it. We actually almost hit 2890. And now, since the market has been closed, we've moved back down. And you can see we're right around that 2882 level. But we have our moving averages, which are pointing down, which are not always, that's not always indicative of where the price is going to go. We could settle right around here, around 2880, and then push higher tomorrow. But I do think that we are going to be running into some resistance as we move forward. So again, we saw this sharp decline, then we saw this rally up, then we saw this quick drop, and I think right here we had a whole bunch of people who had shorted. We had gone below the previous day's low, so Tuesday's low was broken on Wednesday, so we had a lot of people that got into short, and then we rallied back up and we closed around the open, and then Thursday, we continued pressing forward, and then into Friday, we continued on. But as we got into Sunday, we started bouncing on this trend line that I have drawn, this upward trend line, and we broke it around 2 a.m. Sunday or Monday morning. So if I were to move this out a little bit, where's my point? There it is. If I were to move this out a little bit, you can kind of see we had bounced on it right in here, right as the futures started trading on Sunday. We had bounced, and it almost looked like we were getting out of this flag. So if we move it to a 5-day, 15-minute chart, we almost had this little flag in here that we had forming, and it looked as if we might be bouncing off this trend line, pushing through this upper bound, and then maybe making higher highs past 2940 on this leg up. But again, we failed right here. We sold back down through 2,900, and then once we sold down through 2,900 and couldn't break back above it, we sold all the way down to 2,880. And again, as the market has continued trading since the regular market is closed, since the stock market is closed, we've kind of moved back down. We're a little bit closer to that 2880 level. Again, we tried to break through 2890 and could not. So as we move through this evening and into tomorrow, I think 2880 will be an important level to hold. If we don't hold it, we might see a situation like today where we drop about 20 points and move back down maybe to 2860. With a potential to have an even bigger move down here around last Wednesday's lows towards 2840. So again, this is just my opinion, but if people start getting very emotional or they're just wanting to get out, we might see this quickly move down to say 2960 or 2860 and then down to 2840, with the lows being down here around 2800. That is where we initially saw this snapback occur. We did break down below it, so we came all the way down to 2780, but again, that's kind of impulsive, and this all occurred while futures were trading, so this is not while the actual stock market was open. But again, if we continue to see these moving averages press down and kind of dwindle down the price, and we don't see any people stepping in to buy and kind of consolidate the price and move us back up, we might be dealing with a situation similar to what we saw in May, and to where these moving averages kind of continue to press down, and then we eventually just deteriorate and break down past our previous low. So again, we still have a long ways for that to occur, but it is a possibility, and I think holding this 2880 mark will be rather significant overnight here, moving into tomorrow if we can hold it, or if we break down below it, it'll then act as a resistance, especially with the fact that we did hold it today. So there were buyers who were willing to step in. We did break below it, but there were buyers that were willing to step in and bring us back above that 2880 mark. And, as of current, we're still holding above it. But if we start to see, this deterioration, we might move down to 2860, maybe even 2840 by maybe Wednesday if we do start to see, this continue to press down. On the other hand, let's say we were to consolidate right around here, around 2880. I would like to see us consolidate, build a nice support, and then start pushing higher and break through this 2900 mark, which it might take a couple tries. You can see how much trading went into ES here, S&P 500, as we were trading today. So as we approach that, I wouldn't necessarily see us making a swift pop above it, but again, we could have some serious momentum that takes us right through that level. At that point, I would be looking maybe to some of these lower levels down here from where we were trading late last week. So maybe right around here, around 29.15, all the way up to say maybe 29.30, and maybe even this 29.40 mark. But at that point, I think the tides will have changed. This brief leg downward, or this potential, as we're starting to fade away from these highs from this little pop, if we start to see a nice consolidation and momentum bringing us back up, that might change my opinion. Currently, as we sit, I do think as we move later into this week, we will continue to see the price of ES move downward, along with the price of SPY move downward. Maybe somewhere in this 2840 range. So again, that's another 40% or 40-point drop. But we'll just have to see what happens as we move into Tuesday, if we can hold here, or if we do continue to break down lower. I think will be a good sign to kind of see where we will be moving to close out the week if we do break down below these lows down here around 2800 down to 2880. But that's just my view on it. I do think we will continue to move lower, but if we do find some support or consolidation, we might move higher from this 2880 level. So let's move it into SPY. I'll bring that up onto the screen. So roughly a 1.25% decline today here in SPY. Again, these charts are going to be very similar, ES and SPY. So you can see today really struggling. Once we broke 292 and we broke this trend line going to the upside, we just kind of sold off. We tried to hold 290, which I had mentioned in the past was a key level, especially when we were trading back here on Friday, and we bounced on it and then rallied all the way back up to 292. That showed signs that there was some support here. So when we tried to hold it early this morning before the market opened, and even when the market opened, so we'll move this into a 15-minute chart, even when the market opened, we did try and hold that level, but eventually we fell down below it. We came back up, tested it, and then we just kind of sold off all the way until we had about 30 minutes to an hour or so left of trading, and then we kind of bounced back up and recovered a little bit. But again, if we can't hold right around here, around this 288 level, so that would correlate back to the 2880 level on ES, I do think that we might continue to see some declines here on SPY, potentially down to the 284 mark if we really get rolling, but we might see some buyers step in, say around the low 286s. So right around in here, but again, we'll just have to see how it plays out. The PPOs is curling back up. We are, relatively on the oversold side, but that has, that means nothing. You can see how much we were oversold back here, and we just continue to decline. So I don't really mean to say it means nothing, but if we get into a time where it's relatively volatile trading, we could be oversold for an extended period of time and just continue downward and downward before buyers step in. So again, I'd like to see us hold this 288 level as we move through this evening and into tomorrow morning. But as we press back higher, that 2900 mark will be relatively tough to get through. If we do rally back up there, again, we have these moving averages pushing us down on basically every chart here. If we go to, say, a 1 year, 1 day, you can see we're starting to see these longer term moving averages, so 50, 100, and 200 are kind of starting to level off. You can see the 50 is already starting to curl down, the 100 is about level, and then the 200 is still pointing up, which could act as a relatively strong support if we do go down and test it this week. So again, let's see us hold that 288 mark. If we were to break, or if we were to hold it and then break above 290, maybe looking here around that 292 with highs around, or target levels around, say, 293, all the way up to these highs back here on this run around 293.75. But with all of this stated, I do want to point out, I did say I was going to talk about gold. So I'm going to throw the chart up on the screen. This is the gold futures here. So while all of this is going on, gold continues to move higher, and it seems to be the place to put your money in this time of volatility, as we have all of these tariff and trade issues going on. People continue to put their money into gold, and we're just continuing ever since we saw this pop back here at the beginning of August. We're just continuing to see this trend upward and upward. And again, if I go and look at these levels, which I've pointed out in other videos, once we got through this 1480 mark, there really isn't a whole lot of resistance until we get around this 1550 mark, and then if we were to get past there, we could get up to, say, 1580. And I've been talking on this, that we could see this really quick move in gold because there really is no resistance from back here in 2012, 2013. So we could see, or excuse me, 2011, 2012, 2013, there really isn't a whole lot of resistance in this price zone. So we could definitely see a quick rise all the way up to 1580. Now, with that being said, do also be mindful of how overbought we are here on the RSI. I've talked about this. Every time that we see an extended period of overbought sentiment here on gold, as we move forward, it could last a couple months, but then we do see a swift sell-off. So if we do hit this 1580 mark, look to see that there will be some sellers in place that might drive the price of gold back down. But for now, I'm personally holding gold. So I'm looking to see what we do around this 1550 level, if and when we get there, and if we push through, what people are doing as we get close to this 1580 level. So again, this is just my personal opinion. Do not trade off of what my stance is. Come up with your own plan, and trade that plan. And if you lose, you lose. Figure out what it was that went wrong. Keep track of what was your trade setup, why you think it didn't work, and then go on and test it again. If you think it is a winning strategy, go on and test it again. You can't test one strategy with one trade, and if it doesn't work out, then just call it a scrap. You need to test it a fair amount of times to see if it's something that will really work out. But again, gold seems to be what people are moving to as we do see this increased volatility in the market. So just pay attention to that, and maybe this is a safe haven for now, while some kinks in the global economy are worked out. So hopefully this video helps you, getting a grasp on ES and SPY, and maybe you can use it in your trading plan to help you out and understand some levels. So thank you for watching.